Greetings, everybody, and welcome to my channel, All That Is. I'm so glad to be here today. Love, like, and share this video. Leave us a comment and let us know what you think. Help me out by subscribing and hit that notifications bell so you don't miss anything, any future updates. Um, Today, I'm so glad to welcome um, my beautiful friend IndigoAngel. It is also an auspicious day where Donald Trump has just been voted into the office as president of the United States. So it's just a beautiful, beautiful day of alignment that we should be coming together today to speak to IndigoAngel, um, who's here to share her insight and how she came to be. She, to me, is a passionate, divine feminine energy. She's a mother, a guardian of the earth, and as she shares her gifts and services to others through her knowledge and healing, she embodies her work as a starseed, a light worker, and a grid worker. And I'm so grateful to be able to be doing this work with her and sharing this space with her. I only recently got personally acquainted with IndigoAngel, but we've been she's been in my realm or my awareness for the last, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 years, but I'm so grateful for all the lessons that she has taught me. I've done 2 courses with her now, and there's just so much knowledge to be garnered from this being. It's just truly amazing. So without further ado, let me welcome Indigo Angel to the channel, and yeah, let's get started. Thank you, Indy, for being here.
Well, thank you so much for inviting me and this opportunity to come talk with you. You're going to make me already cry just coming into this video because that was just so sweet, everything you just said. And yeah, we have just recently aligned, but we have been kind of on a shooting star, it feels like. And it's been so accelerative, this connection that we have. And I'm happy that you came into my inner world. We've been cranking out some amazing content recently, and you're a wealth of knowledge as well. And I've been impressed with, all of your work,
Oh,
and
thank
aligning
you.
with your wisdom too. So it's good to be here, and yeah, just thank you for bringing me on to talk with you today.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. And as I said, it's a very auspicious day. There's so much excitement in the field, right? With Donald Trump just getting elected and the inauguration just happening. So yeah, it's truly amazing to be here and sort of move on that timeline, right? And align with that timeline. So what are your thoughts?
My thoughts are I'm excited. I'm overwhelmed with a lot of hopeful potentials of the future. I think we both just caught his inauguration and the speech and the prayers. I think that one pastor came in, that one guy, and he was like, "Let freedom ring," from, all over the place. And it was. I think felt monumentally across the board, between the red and the blue. I really did feel like it dissolved some of the division. Um, and I think as much as, you've seen Biden and Kamala sitting on the other side of the aisle, as much as, they're probably a little bitter and, um, however they may be feeling, it does, seem like that they might see some potential in Mr. Trump, and they might be turning a corner in terms of maybe recognizing that some of the things that happened during their administration wasn't that good for the United States, like opening up the borders and allowing all of the, you know, illegal immigrants in because it brought in a lot of crime. As we know, it brought in a lot of the Draco invasion. I think that opened up a gateway for the dark one, so to speak. So, yeah, there's a lot of cleaning house that has to happen with him coming into office. I think he's signing in 200 executive orders on his first day. People are saying, man, this guy must have been up all night, no sleep, just probably going to be signing in orders. And I think a lot of the orders he are putting in place is going to make Americans feel a lot safer in our country. And it's exciting, everything that they're talking about with making America healthy again, because as we know, we have like a food crisis essentially with all of these diabolical ones that, are making these power plays essentially, Bill Gates and Dr. Fauci and that whole crew with, the poison crew essentially.
Yeah.
So I
He
think it
was
will be
pardoned,
great.
right? Dr. Fauci was pardoned. I don't know how that's going to materialize in terms of seeking justice for what he's done, but we shall see.
I just seen that and I thought,
Yeah.
interesting.
I
Interesting.
mean, to me, a pardon is given to somebody that's found guilty. Like it's almost like they're preemptively giving him a pardon, right?
Right. Well, they kind of know what's coming. They know there's a little
Yeah.
bit of a storm coming
Yeah.
for them. I think they're going to be obviously one of the executive orders was to even go after the Biden laptop situation. So
Hmm.
I think they're all feeling a little bit under pressure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
When I was just watching the Biden's leaving, I think it was the Capitol, right? That's where they had it. So as they walked out towards the helicopter, the new incoming the couple, I guess, the president and Melania went to see them off. I don't know if you caught that. But
Mm.
as they left them at the helicopter and walked back to the vice president and his wife, and they turned towards the cameras, Melania just, I saw her like shudder, visibly shudder, and like release this, ah. It was so funny to actually witness that, It was like almost saying good riddance to them. But it was just so poignant, to actually witness that. I was like, wow, that must be really, a true sigh of relief, a true releasing of that burden, if you will, right from her shoulder.
Mm.
But I thought that
Yeah.
was momentous to be watching and catching that.
Yeah. And I also think Melania makes kind of like a good first lady. Like she's very poised and you could
Very
tell she's kind of,
classical. Yeah,
yeah. They said she's got like a Jackie Kennedy type of energy, and the way she dresses is always very statuesque, and and you can tell she takes her mother role very seriously with Barron Trump. And
yeah.
Barron Trump, my gosh, is 6'9". We were
I
talking about
know,
that
he's
today.
just
We were like,
towering.
is he an alien?
He just towers over everybody else, hey?
He does.
Yeah,
Yeah, he stands out. But I do think, it's in the cards for him to become a president in the future. I mean,
absolutely. Yeah.
yeah, I think he'll step into that role, with seeing his father go through all this. He doesn't always look the most enthusiastic, but I think he's probably
I think he's
absorbing
just
things on a
absorbing, yeah,
subconscious level.
and
Yeah,
watching and learning. Yeah, yeah, truly. He's quite
yeah,
young too, right? So he's got a lot to learn. So, yeah. But
yeah.
then there's that otherworldly thing too, right? There's a lot of rumors that he's got like insight into the other worlds, right? Have you heard that rumor?
Well, that he's like a starseed himself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'll be
Um,
awesome, hey?
yeah,
If
because
he
I mean,
reveals himself as, I don't know, I don't think the world is ready for that yet, but it would be great if that is the truth, then, if the light is, in the US office right now.
well, I think we've had a lot of discussions about this on our live roundtables. We've been talking
Yeah.
about, is this a totalitarian AI technocratic globalist takeover, or, are is Trump and Elon also like answers to the problems that we have? And I think we've agreed maybe it's a little bit of both, and things are
Hmm.
intertangled in a very complex, difficult way to fully grasp.
Yeah.
And we've talked about the psychological war that, any person is going to be in that position. Um, we talked about keeping your friends close and your enemies closer.
Yeah.
So it's hard to say, with some of the issues. I think we talked about the needlecraft tech
Hmm.
and, where does he truly lie with that? And, um, seeing the weasels, so to speak, like Bill Gates trying to, get in there and,
Yeah.
schmooze and stuff to try to get on the side of the light and maybe be accepted by Trump. So that way, I don't know, whatever it is, but I just hope that, we continue to stay on this path of draining the swamp, you know, and correcting some people's positions, like
Yeah,
you've seen Zucker turd kind of take a turn, the Zucker turd turn.
I love it. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think Trump just has a pretty powerful influence. When he speaks, people kind of take his commands
Hmm.
seriously, with a
Hmm.
little bit more authority. And I think that's a really good thing that's going to keep us safe from like our international security and war when it comes to especially the Middle East,
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
yeah.
So let's take the focus off Trump and focus on you now. I'd really love to get to know you in a totally different light, if I may. Just want to get to the root of who is Indigo Angel. So I don't know, maybe we could start from, I don't know, your childhood maybe, and how you came to be and how that was like how you living as a starseed, um, came into fruition. Was it at, at a young age? How did that impact your life as a child? I don't know, wherever you want to start, really. But I'd like to go back, if you will.
Wow, we're going to take a journey down memory lane.
Yeah, I'd love to.
Well, this is awesome because I don't often get the opportunity to speak about these things, so I guess it is fun to share. And people do probably wonder, where is she coming from with all of this? And yeah, so well, I would say I was born, with my fourth to sixth strand of DNA activated. I was a very smart child. I could see through things as a child, you know, right away, immediately. I mean, I could see, the insufficiencies, I think, in my parents and where they were lacking on an emotional level and also ability to communicate and also a spiritual level as well. I noticed this because my my grandfather, who's recently passed, um, would take us to church and things like this. And I would be that kid that was like, I want to go talk to that priest. I have questions. This doesn't make sense. Like, this is just, why are things this way, And so right away, I think the intellect to question things and think for myself was always definitely very present. Um, but you know, I'm I'm a full-on water chart. I got a Scorpio sun and a Cancer moon, and that is just an emotional paradigm that many cannot fathom. So that was always like the thing as a child. People would tell me, like, you are so emotional. I just would get told that all the time, and it's just, I couldn't help it. I felt so deeply. So I was learning my empathy and how empathic and psychic and telepathic and intuitive I was um, through people's responses to the depth of my emotion and people telling me as a child, like, adults would have a lot of conversations with me about their lives as a child. I was that kid that could have those adult conversations and people would be like, "Oh, you're so mature for your age, this and that." But I didn't realize it until I got older how much I had been communicating with light beings and galactics and things like that. I think for me it came through imagination and play. I always had a feeling that something or someone was watching me from the other side. Something was watching me from the sky. And so I would take my toys outside a lot. And I would put on like shows and plays for the beings that were watching me and I felt like I was communicating with them. And um, so that kind of, I think, opened up my intuitiveness even more and kind of brought in the angelic realm, which later I come to find out that I feel that this was Arcturians that were making contact with me as a child, but they would often come in and light beings and angels would present themselves to me. And again, I didn't know what that was exactly when I was a child either. Um, some things I was open to, seeing and feeling those things, but other things, because I was so sensitive, it wasn't just angels and light beings, it was also what was in the shadow as well. So I was extremely sensitive to that. And I was scared a lot as a kid. So scared. Like, I mean, I had years where I just had nightmares,
Or
you
like
know?
scared of the dark, or just scared of
Yeah.
every. Oh, okay.
Scared of the dark, scared of what's in the dark, scared of um, energies and entities because I would feel them and intuit them and see them. And
What did your
so,
parents think of it?
while my mom is also very psychic and intuitive. My grandma's an RH negative. My mom is not, but neither none of us are RH negatives, but I think we're just tied to it through the blood and that my whole family, like I have a lot of aunties and stuff and they're all very psychic. They've been into crystals and for years and tarot readings and seeing psychics and stuff. So I think I was kind of brought into it where there was an openness in my family as well. It wasn't something that was rejected. It was actually embraced. So of course there's still a level of needing to, as things can be difficult in family dynamics, a lot of times people say like you can't really be who you're supposed to be with your family. Like you actually have to like kind of step out of that and create yourself not within that because those are the people that aren't going to like see the new you essentially right away. They're not always going to be able to kind of like build or pour into that cup of your development. So it's almost you have to break free from that to like develop yourself and believe in yourself and become the person that you think you are. And then I noticed my family started to see, oh,
Oh, you
she's
were, yeah.
she's changing, she's different. Who is this new person? And then aligning with me more and then embracing, what it is I'm about, which I think just boosts the spirituality and the connection with the sisterhood of my whole family. But yeah, so I mean, it wasn't until, I actually, I think, like for many, went through a dark night of the soul and had a really deep and profound awakening. And that just has catapulted me into um, those psychic connections with the ultra terrestrials and the celestial beings and the guardians and all of those that have been working with me all of this time to start opening myself up in an even more profound way to integrate knowledge and to expand that within my consciousness and what can I do within that now that I feel like I'm embracing roles such as being an ambassador to certain nations and being a facilitator within the roles in which they want me to hold as a planetary guardian.
How did those roles or titles come into your awareness? Like, how did you figure it out? Or was it like, were you sort of ordained in a way that, this was your purpose, this was your role? How did that come about?
Yeah, I would say, you get those initiations, right? There's not like there's a galactic minister somewhere that you can go get an official certification. So,
Yeah.
that'd be cool. But yeah, 20 I would say I awakened in 2013, like 2012, 2013 is when I started to really notice things were shifting. For me, my experience has always been very physical. My ascension was very difficult because being so empathic, like even going back to childhood, I can feel people's illnesses, ailments, and injuries. Like I could sit somewhere and I could say what this person's dealing with, what this person's struggling with. It's just like and sometimes I would take that pain on and then develop those illnesses and then not be able to say like what's mine and
Oh,
what's not.
wow. Yeah.
So my ascension was the same way. Like it was very physically felt, the integration of the rigorous cellular shift. I do feel like my carbon structure broke down a lot and I became more translucent. So energy just actually moves entirely through me. Like I don't have the same carbon level of shields as maybe someone who hasn't gone through a deep cellular awakening. Um, so it became my experience with energy is it's a real living experience and there's also a lot more dangers within that, right? There's a lot more protection that I have to create for myself. My environment has to be much more peaceful. My ability to manage stress levels and things like that, it's not very high. I have a small threshold because of my ascension and because of being able to feel energy so much. So, um,
And you did
That's
all of this while having kids and, having like a normal life, like a 3D life, right? That's amazing.
yes, yes, it's a whole other element that um I think we could get into in terms of talking about motherhood and um, how we navigate that having what I say hybrid children, because I think one of the things I woke up to later in my ascension was, being ran through forced breeder programs. Um, and then learning that, okay, now I'm going to be an advocate to speak against and out about forced breeder programs because of the atrocities that are happening to women all across the world, which deeply ties into galactic history and a lot of the information that the Guardians have wanted me to, speak on and present, essentially. But I think my deepest celestial connection in the beginning was with the Lyrans, the Pleiadians, the Arcturians, and then along came the Hydra system. And this is a guardian celestial nation that's not really a part of like the ones that are contracted to speak publicly to the earth in terms of guardianship, but it is a progenitor celestial nation and race that has been deeply interwoven into the feminine's creation history on the earth. And so integrating, communicating, and transmitting information with the Hydra system, Alphard, Alacia, specific systems within Hydra. Um, I've gotten so much of my Akashic records revealed to me that go back to the motherlands of Mu and Lemuria, in which have helped me to decode more of the forced breeder program. So I think a part of my mission is also to continue to speak and bring a lot of awareness around that, but while continuing to foster the vision for New Earth and helping people to understand what that is. So that way we can come together in our Gridwork community because it's kind of the staple for building those timelines for the New Earth and for the Golden Age that Trump just spoke about.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Wow,
yeah.
that's a lot. That's a lot to take in, but you've had such a colorful experience. It's truly, truly amazing. And what struck me when I first got to know you, and honestly, I didn't understand like probably 60% at that time of what you were talking about. It was just way over my head, and I was like, wow, this lady really knows her stuff, and so you really picked my interest at that point, and I was like, and then I started just following you, and as days and months went on, it just, it's sort of like absorbing all of that energy and getting it into, into alignment with my own being, and it was just so fantastic. And even till now, like even your last last two episodes of the updates that you did, that was like way, way, way beyond my understanding. I still have to go back and listen to it, but that's just it. You bring this highly evolved knowledge to us, and it's just so beautiful in the way that you present it and allow it to be understood and acknowledged within the field, right? And so for me, that's very, very powerful because I don't think there's anybody out there quite like you, and it's just truly amazing. You stand up to, perhaps people like Ashia Nadine and Lisa Renee and all of those icons, right, that are bringing in
Yeah.
these energies, right? And so it's truly fascinating to have all of that information delivered in a way that's accurate and authentic, and it's so valuable for what we're all going through right now in this ascension process, right? And just aligning with our own souls, right? Because a lot of us have been, me personally, have been, you know severed and distracted and severed from, that original soul energy, right? So there's so much healing to take place and so much alignment, realignment that needs to take place. And so when people like you come along, it's like, this is what I've been waiting for. So it's truly amazing that, you have that within your being to be able to project that and educate people. So I'm truly grateful for you and your work. You said something interesting about the forced breeder programs. Was that something that you remembered from your past lives and something that might have happened to you?
Yes, well, I just wanted to like maybe just real quick
Yeah,
talk
yeah, of
to what
course.
you just said. Well, I have to say, you know, Asha and Adine and Lisa Renee are absolutely my teachers. Like they are absolutely role models for me. And so I always look to their work for um, not only have I studied it, you know, deeply, I've studied, Asha and Adine and the Voyagers and her Kalantic sciences, but I've also studied, Lisa Renee and the Ascension Glossary, and so it's kind of like my backbone in a way. And I do feel like I was aligned with Guardian Consciousness before finding their work, but once I found that work, it really opened me up to the potentials and how big this really is and what the guardian force on the planet is and how pure and how organic this truly is and how everyone is ultimately a part of this. And this is our galactic history, like the purest version of it that I think anybody is going to find. So, yeah, I think it's so important for us to have people that we look up to that can help us guide our own vision and our own authenticity within it. But it has expanded me beyond their teachings. I mean, I've studied, everything from David Icke to uh, the guy who wrote the books on Mu, Charles C. Churchwood, I think his name is. He's incredible, like so amazing. Um,
I
Madame
know, I know
Blavatsky.
you talk about the law of one too, right? Yeah.
hmm Yep. I've looked into the books of the Law of One. Um, John Velo Melchizedek. Um, I've studied the Gnostic texts. I've studied some of the Quran, the Bible. Just so much, any sacred texts and books I can really get my hands on. And I think one of the things maybe that even aligned me and you was I just recently studied the Gospel of Peace, and it had some of Yeshua's original teachings in it, which was powerful and amazing. But also Lori De La Toy, just so many divine way showers. I look at what everybody's doing too. I studied these great minds, and then I'm also channeling my own connection, and so I'm birthing myself through all of it. And so really, the New Earth vision is me tapping into, you know, my teachers, the guardians, and also my group of grid workers that I work with. Every time we do grid work missions, we bring forth more profound information, and then integrating that information into the bigger picture constantly. So it's been so just enlightening to, I think, be working towards helping the processes that are necessary for New Earth to emerge. So I'm currently writing a book on that, which I hope to get out this year. I'm just going to say this year is the year. I don't know exactly. I can't seem to put a goal date for me because every time I start working on something, there's always more to keep adding to the information in the book. But yeah, force breeder programs. Yes. Well, as a Hydra starseed and incarnate, my moon position aligns with the Hydra system. So I have deep subconscious transmissions through that intelligence system. Um, it is all about rectifying what's been lost for the feminine on the planet, and it's all about speaking towards the demonization that has come upon woman on the earth, essentially. So it's guided me to look at Mu and the fall records from Lemuria, um, look at the descent of the fallen angels that came down on Mount Hermon and the Nephilim forced breeder programs where they took all of the women and mated with them forcibly, um, and just, everything that continued to transpire through history when it comes to that, through the Irish women being taken for mulatto slave trades and, the Atlantic slave trades and the Mary Magdalene laundries. I do feel like my past lives are deeply woven into that. And I also feel like I was subjugated under forced breeder programs in this incarnation as well. as I do feel that my naivety and my fertility was preyed upon and hunted by reptilians. Um, so just to say, I absolutely love my children, and they are the priority, the number one priority in my life. Um, but I still go back and look through how everything happened and occurred, and it does feel like my sovereignty was removed from the way things came about and were transpired. And then the difficulties in which I experienced afterwards were just diabolical. Being attacked by reptilians, and my pregnancies and my motherhood both were under attack, deeply under warfare. Um, And so, yeah, aligning all of those experiences with what the force breeder programs are, I could see how much I was enslaved through the force breeder chains and started to work to create a removal implant system in which I could help myself with removing those implants, but also help other women with the difficulties of it as well. And so I offer healing sessions for that. Um, but yeah. It's very extensive, and it's something it's a deep conversation to be had, but
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that. It must be difficult to talk about it. Just one small question in that, and I don't want to go too deep if you don't want to share, but I just want to know, how did the reptilian energy reveal itself to you, and how did you identify with that?
well, of course I think it's like an awakening. It's a coming to. You don't really realize things until years and years and years after the making of it
Hmm.
all, and then it's like recollecting and going back and going, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. I see that now.
Yeah.
Um,
So
I
at the time,
think
you didn't really know that it was that
no, but
energy.
I knew
Okay.
something wasn't right though too. There
Okay.
was a deep gut instinct, that a deep knowing the whole time that I wasn't aligned to bringing in 12D souls. Um, See that the divine creation is that we should have our 6th to 12th strands activated as indigos and starseeds, and that we should be aligning and we should be mating with those that also carry that. So that way you bring in a soul that's really free from binded from reptilian karma, that soul can incarnate on a higher dimensional earth, and that they will come in to serve the 12th dimensional planetary ascension blueprint, right? So most women, not all women, I can say, but I would say the majority of the Hydra lines, the Palladian lines, the Mary Magdalene lines, um, Irish lines, African lines, Lemurian, um, like India, a lot of like southern India, also Australia and Madagascar, all these areas. Like, if you have ancestry to these lines, you're going to be carrying the 12D original soul blueprint. So, this is what is hunted by the reptilians. This is what is seeked after. There's something programmed within their locators and their king of tyranny implants. There's something predatorial that they search for these types. It's like they have some sort of chemical and pheromonal genetic programming to find these types of women, and you know um, push them into breeding the reptilian offspring. So for me, I wasn't subjugated under the most severe forms of torture. I can say that there's women on this earth that are binded to the most severe forms of force breeder programs. So I would say I've been hybrided out in those timelines where the worst of the warfare isn't occurring. But, this is really just horrible in other places of the world
Yeah.
which we could
Yeah.
get into. But
But you to me, that's the elixir, right? It's like you've almost found it within your heart to find that elixir to heal others, right? And like heal yourself and heal others from that experience, right? Which is truly a blessing, isn't it? Like you've
yeah,
developed
yeah.
all of these healing modalities, like the Draco seal removal and the Aryan seal removal and all of that from these experiences.
Yeah, from dealing with reptilians firsthand, um, through forced breeding. Essentially, they there's always a battle over the children. They want to reptilianize those children. And so a lot of the mothers will carry the 12D consciousness and awareness, right? So they'll instinctively combat to fight those dominations or shifts within the children. They want to keep the soul body intact inside of the child. Because there's something with the reptilian gene code that they can switch on the reptilian genes in the children, and they can influence the domination of the reptilian consciousness to override their indigo soul light body blueprint and template. So if you are in a hybrid situation, the mothers have to be more fierce to keep that intact. Um, and of course, because of the degradation in mating and the way that this has been done, that there's a lot of struggle for indigo starseed children that are incarnating into reptilian bodies, to more predominant reptilian gene bodies. This is where we see autism. It's where we see all of the children cancers and illnesses, you know. It's where we see addiction and mothers losing their children to that illness essentially. It's because the soul is struggling in a reptilian body and a reptilian world.
Would you say gender identity fits into that category as well?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, absolutely. Yeah. Um, there's so much light within the indigo soul. It's a very neutral light body, like it's a loving light body. So it's unattainable really to the reptilian genes, so they want to try to covet it in any way possible. And through breeding is
Yeah.
it's a blood covenant.
Yeah.
So
Well, they're
that's
a
the cash
dying,
cow.
yeah, they're a dying race, right? So they are trying to do everything they can to sustain themselves and continue with their bloodline, right? So like
Yeah.
you rightly said, they'll do anything to keep that alive, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And I want to say too, I'm not a feminist.
Yeah.
People may think that I am, and I've gotten that thrown at me a couple times, but I'm not. I just see that according to the Bible, it says that the woman was born out of Adam's rib. You know, that immediately, going back 6,000 years, creates a mind control program that the woman is ultimately inferior to the man. And it does strike us up to have that conversation as to why women they are inferior on a level of physical strength, right? So in the 3D world, the patriarchy will that it utilizes and dominates that, but we know that it's balance, right? We know that the women bring in the spiritual, they bring in the emotional, and they bring in the mental rationality within those components and energies as well. And that we are, the divine counterpart to the masculine.
Mhm.
So it should be operating in balance and in harmony. But unfortunately, the forced breeder programs have made it so that the scales are detrimentally tipped in a way that is very damaging to the divine feminine. So it's a call to the masculine to recognize their power,
Mhm.
in which they do have when it comes to the feminine, and utilize that in a way that doesn't take away from her strengths. Because when you take away from her strengths, it takes away from the masculine strengths, and so.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. Yeah. Well, that's been the distortion too, right? With this whole Draco invasion, right? That's been one of their primary weapons, so to speak, right? To take away that feminine energy in all fashion, in all ways, in all manner of speaking, right? And that's been their modus operandi, if you will, through the ages, right? But just going back to your thought about creating Eve from the rib of Adam, through my transmission of the first book, all that is progressing to the fifth dimension, that sort of takes you through the journey of the early creation stories. And this is from the perspective of the collective of three. I think we talked about them. One is a Palladian, an Arcturian, and a 12th dimensional being. And so their perspective of the early creation of man and woman, if you will, the woman was endowed with the energy of rebirthing, right? And so she was given all of the secrets of the earth, all of the secrets of reproduction, all of the secrets of protection, of nurturing, right? So the man is there to protect all of these energies that she embodies. And so that is what they are basically attacking, right? And so when you look at today's world, you don't see that, right? You don't see the man defending the woman in the way that it's supposed to be or the way it's meant to be, right? So that's where the feminine energy essentially comes from, right? It's a very divine, very sacred energy um, that was essentially birthed with this idea in mind that came directly from the creator. But unfortunately, it's been tarnished in so many ways and so many fashions over the centuries and lifetimes, right?
Yeah. Well, this takes me to looking at prophecy for New Earth because a lot of the things that I've been getting through when you ask me like how did I get these titles were that was I initiated very much so when I went to Kauai, Hawaii. I mean, I was in the 48th dimensional guardian, well, it's 144 dimensional guardian stargate, but certain areas on the island are also 48 dimensional, and that one of the places that was 48 dimensional was the Hindu monastery in the center of the island, and there I felt like I was anointed by the serpent, like this serpent, and then also Shiva as well, like literally laid and opened up my crown and actually sat on my head and and connected with I'm like I can barely speak when I talk about it because it's hard to relay how powerful that transmission was for me on a cellular level and what was upgraded. Um, the Venusian portals were very open there, and so I felt like in that moment I was anointed as a Venusian priestess. And so I got all of the higher feminine codes, and I had this realization that in order for the new earth to truly and fully transpire, the world has to awaken to their ability to co-collectively create through thought and telepathy. That this was the key essence for us truly birthing a harmonious new earth world. Um, and so it's absolutely crucial for the enlightened divine feminine to step into her role as an oracle for the world, not just doing this on a small level. I mean, this is where we start, but that it will become worldwide, that it will be a global thing, that it's not just a masculine Christ, that there is a feminine Christ that also is a high wisdom, enlightenment, feminine council that will seed the earth and also guide the world in terms of spirituality. This is absolutely a necessity for the world to become harmonious. So, yeah, as to what you said, we'll need the masculine support to bring this forward. That um, the Father God, like the Father, Son, the Holy Spirit, or even like the Trinity of Buddha, Shiva, Yeshua, which is what I like to call that, that will have to walk side by side with a feminine high council in some way, whether we create temples for this, whether we create um, churches or whatever you want to call it, places of worship where the high feminine council can bring forth those messages. I think it's definitely imperative. Yeah.
I
Um,
totally agree with you.
yeah.
That's beautiful. Yeah. Yeah, you talked a lot about your Hawaiian experience, and I had it as one of my points to talk about, but you brought it forth, and I'm so glad you did. That sounded like a very powerful experience for you. I'd love to go one day and just to go through, maybe walk in your shoes and just, rediscover for myself all of those areas. I'd love to do that.
I think it should be on our agenda to get back there for more missions. Like
Yeah.
it's definitely a home base. It's truly heaven on earth, the 12D reality in which we can physically walk through a 12D experience and it physically be seen and felt. It's there. If you don't have the upgraded codes in the body, or the innate understanding of enlightenment, like you will be redirected from that place. I mean, it's very profoundly protected. Um,
Where does that fall in terms of the Earth's chakra system, Hawaii?
it's the inner chakra system of the earth. So
Oh, okay.
it is the chain of the islands are their own chakra system. There's 7 islands, and it starts with yeah, the top one is the crown. I don't remember the name of that island, but that is the one that is most preserved. Nobody is allowed to go to that island except for like native Hawaiians and things like that. But Kauai, which is where I went, it's the second one down. That's the third eye
Okay.
chakra. So it's called the Island of Levitation.
Wow.
And no joke, you are levitating the entire time you're there. Whatever it is you need, if you're broken to your deepest part of your soul or core, that island holds everything within it on a spiritual level to wrap you up in those energies and heal you, heal your body, heal your mind and spirit, and allow you to exist on heaven on earth for a little while. It truly is a profound experience. I experienced every range of emotion there. Um, and then it all coming back together. And it's the closest I think you can really get to transmitting with the core spirit, the conscious spirit of the earth, of Mother Earth, of Pachamama, of Iru, of Mama Kauai, of Aloha. Um, it's all there. The creation mechanics are there, and the reverence for all life is there. And it's the main portal in which all life actually shares on the planet. Everything will ultimately, no matter where you are in the world, you will be recycled back through that Stargate.
I
Um,
get the sense that that might be the only place on Earth that sort of survived the invasion, if you will, from the Draco invaders. Do you get that sense? It feels like they were not able to touch that land.
it's interesting. I actually think it's where it began.
Oh, okay.
I think Kauai is actually where the Luciferian rebellion actually happened or took place. And I think this goes back to Toth, and this goes back to the Anunnaki, and this goes back to the original forced breeder program, which was the Ioni massacre, which was where we had the true ancient holders of the 12D Maharotic body, essentially, and that the feminine and the masculine were existing there harmoniously, and they held the true light and sound records to heal the earth. This is what's so important about a 12D blueprint is that you hold the codes to actually do inner earth work, which is a very powerful symbiotic relationship with the spirit of the earth and this spiritual holographic immunity, and then also the mechanics of how everything functions inside of the planet. So the beings there were the soul keepers for the earth and the soul keepers for humanity, and they were the transmitters of all messages for humanity, and they were the ones that could keep the earth pure and cleansed from harm. So when this invasion came, and they basically took the women for the forced breeder programs and then um and when I say took them, it was violent, it was
Yeah.
murderous, it was tribal raid, it was genocide, it was enslaving these women with shackles and chains and forcing them to then mate with Anunnaki reptilians, Nephilim, all of these types. And then the men were essentially murdered or castrated And they did diabolical things to the men as well. So this is the original core wound of humanity, which is trifurcated, because what has happened is it's pinned men and women against each other versus seeing the triangulation of the enemy, which was there, which was the reptilians that imposed that. So I think it's pinned us in this battle against the sexes that has deteriorated us and again allowed the force breeder programs to take over on the planet, but then doesn't redirect us back to who the original perpetrators essentially were and the origin of this identity, the origin of the reptilian mental plane, which takes us back to planetary war and how we, get to restoring the earth and the fractures. There, it's
Yeah.
all within that Hawaiian Islands because they are the inner chakra system of the planet. So I would say there's an inner chakra system and then the outer chakra system that transmits to places like Machu Picchu, Glastonbury,
Hmm.
Uluru, Mount Shasta, all of those other main chakras on the planet.
So how do you think that area or that, or I guess Hawaii as a whole was able to maintain that pureness through all of this uncertainty and all of the invasions?
Yeah. Well, the natives that are there are the ancient builder races. So they are fiercely protective of those islands. They do not allow outsiders in,
Mm.
very kindly. Again, you can't even get to the top island. Like outsiders are just simply not allowed to go there.
I'm
So
getting a vision of that. If you've seen the movie Avatar, the grandmother tree with all the light in it, does that ring true for Hawaii?
absolutely, I'm actually taken to a specific tree when you say it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
it's so
actually in the
beautiful, right?
Garden of Eden. It's in the
Mm,
Garden of Eden. There's a
mm.
Garden of Eden inside the island that holds the mother tree.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So we're in alignment then.
Yes. You
Because
should definitely go. You should definitely
yeah,
go.
yeah. Because my awareness, or I guess my story goes back to the Orion Wars, right? The Orion and the Draco alliance, if you will, right? And so my sort of ancestry or my seeding, if you will, comes from that war and how that and where that happened, right? And so I have a feeling or a sense that that took place much later. And that sort of originated in North India in the Himalayan mountains, right? And this goes back many, many lifetimes ago. So that's sort of seeded in my past lives.
It's it's a difficult thing to kind of carry in your Akashic records, but I think we all share it, with you as well. I have some Orion in my blueprint, that's for sure. It's one that we're having to grow stronger, I think, to identify all of the facets of it and where the original seedings of those wars took place on the planet. I could only imagine that you said the Himalayas, but I feel like it goes and runs through also I believe Zion, China. I think
Yeah.
that's the
Well, I think the first impact, if you will, happened in the north of India, and then it just sort of spread out, right? So that's where they first attacked. I have a feeling that's what
mm,
happened.
mm,
And once they
interesting.
gained entry into the Earth's atmosphere, so to speak, they sort of landed there and then they sort of spread out.
And I'm wondering if that doesn't maybe also tie into the 10th Stargate in Abadan, Iran as well. That's so close to northern India. I mean, it's not neighbors or anything, but I
Yeah.
mean, I think there's definitely a lot of interconnecting ley lines and that Stargate does tie into the Anunnaki Stargates in ancient Sumer and Mesopotamia and Babylon, and into Nippur and Uruk, which were like the original Atlantean cities, but there's definitely an Orion Stargate network over there.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, the way I see it is like, the Himalayas are like really cold, right? So they might have landed there and found that to be like the highest point of entry because those mountains are really high, right? So once they got there, they were like, "Brr, this is too cold. Let's find a hotter, climate." And then they went down to where I don't know, maybe I'm just, saying things as they come to my mind. But then, that's a warmer climate, right? Which is more conducive for their body and their energy, right? Like Iran, Iraq is like a really hot climate. So who knows? Maybe that's what they figured would be. more conducive for them.
Yeah, because reptiles can't really survive in the cold, right?
No. Yeah.
Okay. That would make sense. That would, and there's so many underground tunnels. I mean, I think there's the most Draco and Orion reptilian bases. Yeah, definitely all through the
It's
Middle
all in
East.
that area. Yeah.
Yeah, yep, that's the hive swarm for sure. And it makes me really honestly sad when I hear about what's happened in India with the reptilian invasions and the genocide, and because I mean I feel deeply connected to the ancient Tamil civilization. I feel like that's one of my past lives. And so the desecration of their temples, the desecration of everything that's happened over there. I mean, it's just they've been subjugated under such severe torture by the reptilian bloodline. It's
Yeah.
diabolical. But I think that those Tamils were the ancient blue bloods. They were the original blue bloods and the original they may even been the blue
The
skinned.
Aryans. Yeah. They're known
Yep.
as the Aryans. Yeah.
Yeah,
They came
the
from that
ancient
race.
rishis. Yeah,
Yeah.
the ancient rishis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally. You're right. You're right on that. But yeah, it's so fascinating. And that's another thing we have to do. Go to India together. Someday.
Yes,
Someday.
yes. It's it's definitely in the cards. That is for sure. I got a lot of places on the to-do list right now for missions, but
Yeah.
that's one. That's one.
Can you talk about the 144 dimensions that you saw? Like how did you experience that and how did it come to your understanding or into your reality that there were 144 dimensions in Hawaii?
Well, I wasn't expecting it, to be honest with you. I mean, I do feel like my 12D soul body blueprint is activated. So, that in itself allows me to transmit, I think, in 12 by 12 dimensional sets, if that kind of makes sense, where I can see um, multiple multiple dimensions according to that once your 12D is opened, right? But I'm always connected with the 144,000, the mission of this and what we're meant to do and serve here in terms of that, in terms of the 144 higher harmonics and those activations that occur within the planet. But I didn't know when I went to Hawaii that I was gonna interpret that. I was honestly thinking 48, but going there and being able to visibly see the constructs of what that holographic and angelic realm looks like through the Guardian Stargate, there's no way this is 48. And then you realize that you are actually seeing Genesis. You're in the creational womb, you're in the creation portals, the cradle of life portals. Um, and there's not just one, multiple. There's multiple stairways to heaven. And taking you into, the because the 144 would be the higher harmonic heavenly realms. That's kind of I think what you're stepping up and into when you're accessing through the Rainbow Bridge or the Antakarana Bridge or Jacob's Ladder, like there's all kinds of terms for it, but you can see multiple of those in Hawaii.
So
They're
it's like a
literally,
fractal system.
yes, yes. And that's when I realized that, yeah, everything that's artificial is essentially cloning from that Stargate system on the planet. So when we talk about the Saturn black cube matrix, that's, I think it's imitating the organic structures of the um, crystal organic, like spiritual holographic. It's almost like a cube. It's like
So
an
how do
organic
you how
cube.
do you see that as two opposing energies? Do you see the like the light and the dark, if you will, that are integrated into this holographic system? How can you tell the fallen, if you will, the fallen from the light?
Well, that felt very removed from the Guardian Stargate. That it's almost like the constructs weren't even existing there and they weren't even really connected to it. That whole Guardian Stargate is like pristine and it's protected. So it's not integrating the artificial light there. It's like all the organic systems. Um, In terms of the dark, though, yeah, that's come from a lot of remote viewing the inside of the Earth.
So these are not something that you saw there. You just became aware of it, that it's not integrated into the system. Is that what you mean?
Well, now that I'm thinking about it, it's putting it into some different perspectives for me right now. Yeah, there is something about that gate system that it's not holding the negative, like it's not tampered. So and that's representing the inner earth.
Right.
Okay, so it's almost like, so what's at the inner earth is holding all of the organic codes, all the organic Akashic records, all of the organic spiritual mechanics of the planet, the actual sustaining mother grid, and all of the dimensions of creation that are within it, and all of the seeds of creation that are within it. But what is happening is that the negative systems, or the artificial, or the shadow systems, or Saturnian systems, that they overlay the organic. Um, and then they can superimpose themselves in certain dimensions of Earth that don't allow us to see the difference. So, yeah, it's kind of complex, but there is definitely a shadow matrix inside of the planet, and artificial weaponry that is functioning within the planet. And this is something that has to do with Saturn's influence on the Earth, but not just Saturn. I think also Mercury and Mars, um, and Jupiter, and then even maybe the shadow bodies of the other planets as well. But those are the main ones that I see. I think function it more in terms of like how the wheel or the how it is operating. So,
So
um,
in your opinion, how do we, is there a way to disintegrate that or remove those layers, if you will?
that's the gridwork sciences that I am tirelessly, constantly working on
Yeah.
and keeping in mind. I think with everything that I do, we try.
Yeah.
We're trying, and
And
we
the reason
do.
I ask that
Mhm.
is because in my reality too, and I've been tangling with the Draco as well, right? That's how it appears to me when these things happen. So when my guides get activated on a mission, say like when we go out to get these clusters, I call them clusters, right? It's as if they have this if you can imagine like tentacles, right, that are within this cluster, right? So they sort of go out into the field, and it's like you said, it's like a layer. And what did you call it? Like a um it's yeah, it's like a layer over the earth,
Like an overlay, like an
overlay, yeah.
overlay. Yeah.
And so when this cluster is surrounded by the light, that overlay gets removed, right? And so whatever that energy is that cluster was vibrating within, if you will, that frequency is removed. So everything that was attached to that particular cluster is then extricated with that energy, and it's removed. So that's why I asked, is there a way that these could be removed? Like if we go and penetrate into, say, identify the cluster, if you will, that's vibrating at that level, then they can be removed, right? So I'm just curious to know how that can be identified in a way.
Well, the identification process definitely comes through having your psychic senses activated, third eye open, telepathic remote viewing, and documenting and data collecting. Um, I would say the removal of these things have come for me through ceremony, through sacred ceremony, and just going through simple extraction processes where you verbally, vibrationally, energetically, light and sound communicate with the structures, and then command through commandment, ask for extraction, ask for collapse and dissolve, ask for um, release of the strongholds of the energy. So I think there's a component of identifying and like verbally transmitting those intentions. Um, working with then there's a process of also having to stabilize, right? So you have to also identify where are the organic resources, what systems are broken or dismantled that have allowed this to be there in the first place, and then work on repairing through plugging things back in on an energetic level and a spiritual level that can sustain the consciousness. And then I think the focus shifts to upgrading the consciousness of the land itself. Um, and working to shift the vibration and frequency and work to heal the land. And also the people and the beings that are on it, like offering healing in the areas in which maybe you've recognized that that negative energy is attached or has anchored itself. Essentially, it's that there's a reason why it's usually the people have been taken over or they're not able to sustain um, any energy there that's going to help the land with it. And but then you have to look at the deeper root in the problem as well. Why is that land not being sustained? You know, if we're talking about a specific location. So that's when I kind of go in, and for me, that's why it's such a science. Grid work is a science because it's you have to look at it from all levels and layers and dimensions, right? What's going on underneath that earth in that area? You know, are the inner earth passageways blocked? Why are they blocked? What's the bigger dynamic going on then? You know, what what negative influences do we have? Are there military bases? Are there nuclear facilities? Are there, you know, is this a war that, or I mean, a land that has had war upon it and things like this? So then it takes like, okay, then you have to get more technical with that healing for that land too, because then it's like a collective healing that has to happen. So I would say it's a much more dynamic process. It's a dynamic awareness,
Yeah,
right?
I totally
Yeah.
agree with you. And I love that you go so deep into this subject matter. And, I've like your Gridwork um, adventures are so profound. It's just amazing. It's such an involved sort of mission, really. When I first started watching you, I would try to go and remote view after you had been there to those places to see what I can find out. And my guides were always impressed with the work that you guys did. They would, and to me, it's like as if, like, after you had been there, it's like these Draco would pop up and show themselves. And then I would go in with my team and like clear them up. So it was as if we were like the cleanup crew. So it was fun to see that happening. But yeah, but since then, like we've done some grid work sessions together, and it's been totally amazing. And you do it in such a way that it's like so wholesome. It's like we don't leave any stone unturned almost, right? So it's really cool to see that happening. And you go about it in a very technical way, which you just talked about, with your maps and like going through all of the things that are happening in that area, right? To make sure that you're doing it on a very complete fashion in a way. But yeah, it's truly amazing to see your work and to experience it firsthand. It's really, really cool. Anything more you want to talk about in terms of grid work? I know that's your passion.
Yeah, it is my passion. Well, just that I have the Global Gridwork and New Earth Prophecy course that's coming up. We seem to be doing one every year now, and each gridwork course brings in a new teaching, like a new element to the gridwork that we add, and covering everything from beginner levels of gridwork to the expert levels. So if anyone is interested in that, it's
Yeah,
going to be
absolutely.
starting February 22nd, 2025, and they can register at learn.indigoangel222.com. Um,
I'll
yeah,
add
it's
your information at the bottom in the description as well, so people can find you.
That sounds amazing. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. So the last time I talked to Mary Magdalene, or tuned into her energy, she was so excited about our live discussions on YouTube, the women's discussions that we've been having, and she sort of gave me a visual idea of how she saw the energy unraveling, and it was really quite amazing. She said, if you can imagine a geometric figure, whatever it is, and to me, I sort of visualized a triangle. She said, imagine that as totally twisted up and out of alignment. So she said, when you guys come together, when you folks come together as a team, as a group of women talking about all of the things that on the subjects that we talk about, she said, and when you come into alignment and you gather a lot of people within your field of energy, it's as if that, so for me, I imagine like a triangle, right? She said it's like you can imagine that triangle all twisted up, but when you gather together, it's like that thing unravels and it gets into complete alignment with the energies of the creator. So it comes into perfect harmony. And I was like, wow, that's so cool. It's so amazing. And that's just a very basic sort of example of what she told me and what's happening, right, on an energetic level, just from us getting together and aligning ourselves and talking about the issues that are happening in our reality, right? So
Yeah.
that's a very basic level, but if you take it to your level, I can only imagine what's happening right in the field when we do, like, say, perhaps a Gridwork mission, right? So it's truly amazing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Had me thinking about our ceremonial circles that we do. Because when we do these grid work missions, we usually form a big circle. A lot of times we hold hands and then we hold the ceremony in those sacred vortices and areas where we can transmit with the consciousness of the planet. And it is just beyond powerful. It is, we immediately see results, we immediately see shifts. I mean, I really feel like the work that we did in Hawaii and then took it over to Arkansas, like that was transformational planetary healing work that, I don't even know entirely what this is becoming because it just keeps growing. It keeps expanding. It keeps reaching more and more. And every time we come together for ceremony, it's just entirely transformational. So when you said that triangulation and that you've seen it opening up, that's what I've seen in the circles that we're doing.
And it's not
They,
just individually, right? And that's what she told me. She said, imagine that on a collective level. Like, it's like happening to you on an individual level. It's happening to you on, like we were a group of what, five, I think, right? So it's happening within your circle of five. And then anybody that connects into your circle, whoever's listening on the live shows or whoever tunes in later on, they're all impacted by this. And so it becomes like a collective energy, right? And so whatever little, it's like the fractal of that, right? It's like whatever little fractals of that twisted geometry of each individual is connected to that energy, it all unravels and gets totally aligned into perfection. So that's beautiful, isn't it? It's just so amazing that that can happen, right?
it's absolutely glorious. And I can tell you that source, like our Heavenly Father, our Heavenly Mother, like they work together as one. Um, and it loves it when people gather for spiritual ceremony and praise the earth and praise God and you stay in a ceremonial state, not just for 5 minutes, but when you are actively in honoring of creation, for I think our Arkansas ceremony went like 3 hours at the top of Mount Pinnacle. It is felt by the universe. It is felt by the heavens. Like it's everything praises that worship ceremony and um it's a reward thing as well too. It rewards you with your healing. It rewards you with all of those cracks and crevices on that collective level, like you just said, all the extensions of the fractals. Um, and it responds to our requests. When we show up authentic and in our grief and even in our sorrow for the things that are injustices, when we show up and we give that,
Yeah.
like the surrendering of it, it all like receives it, and you realize how we're exchanging with that energy 24/7 and how we need to do more things like that. We
Yeah,
need to,
absolutely.
it needs to be a part of our regular like life all the time.
Yeah, no, I
Yeah.
totally agree. It's like when you tune into those energies, and it's like if you give 1%, you get like 100% back, right? It's much, much, much more than what you expect, right? And the same thing happens to me too when I go into meditation. It's like it's almost like you step into this realm, if you will, of bliss, right? And you don't feel like stepping out of it again because it's like, it's just so beautiful and it's so peaceful. It's so much in harmony, right? Um, but yeah, I totally get it. I totally get where you're coming from, right? And I felt it because I tuned in quite a few times in, with your ceremonies and your live shows that you were transmitting from wherever you were. And I could totally feel it in my heart. Like everything you guys were going through, I could totally connect with that energy. So it makes total sense to me.
Yeah, it's been some powerful, powerful grid work we're doing, and we do have some grid work coming up.
Yeah,
We're going to be announcing two grid worker missions
nice,
soon,
nice. I look
soon.
forward to that.
Yeah.
Do you want to chat a little bit about your book?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. It's a work in progress.
Okay.
Um, I talk about, everything from beginner levels of grid work to how to facilitate grid work in the book. But then I start to go into like newer prophecy and um, all of the anatomy, geographical, spiritual, holographic anatomy is going to be covered in that book. And the New Earth prophecy, how it's going to unfold, what indigos and star seeds much must know about the coming of New Earth and the transmission and the transformation that we're going to be going through into 12,000 Common Era and what's kind of going to be happening in each one of these sects as we progress into the future. I speak about the peaks of Shambhala and why these are significant and um, grid workers, working on the ascension path into their divine planetary logos consciousness, into their avatar self, which will utilize these peaks of Shambhalas. And that this really was the path of Yeshua and Buddha and Shiva. They were also grid workers, so I talk about some of this. Um, I talk about the solar sun disks and how to work with them and those activations, where the locations of the Guardian Rescue Stargates are. It's going to be very comprehensive. Um, I'm currently probably at like 500 or 600 pages right now with my just guessing with my illustrations, but I've yet to like fully put them in. It's gonna be the biggest thing I've ever put together. That's for sure. It's very exciting. Um, because I feel like it's almost a manual on some level that is hopefully to, help the incarnating root races, the sixth sub race and the seventh root race, because a lot of them will be coming in with the gold blood. I've talked about the gold blood ones coming onto the planet. This is also going to be in the book. Um, and how the RH null will be a necessity for these New Earth tribes to come on the planet because they're going to be dealing with higher levels of terra reformation and also a higher electrical conduit grid because the planetary core will also be evolving and will become more gold. So we'll have a gold grid in those golden eras. So everything
Yeah,
can
talk
be
about a
harmonic
golden
and
age, hey?
conducive. Yes. Yeah, so our bodies will actually need to be more um, electrically harmonious with the solar body because it will be like a higher solar template in the planet. So they'll have copper skin, they'll be more melanated, um, but they won't be dealing with any sort of polarity or duality within positive and negative charges in the body. So they'll be much more harmonious, very telekinetic and profoundly prophetic people that just innately already are really getting activated from the 144 dimensional Earth plane. They will be like the 144 tribes incarnated almost, as if that would be like a new prophecy as well for the 144 tribes to inhabit the planet and the Earth. So I think
Sounds wonderful.
Yeah. It's a lot of new exciting things that
Yeah, who better to do it than you? I mean, you've got this breadth of knowledge and you've done so much work in this field, so it's wonderful to hear that.
thank you so much. I love having this conversation. This is so fun. I feel like we could
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I'm learning so much. It's awesome. So I have to ask you, if somebody like, just a layperson discovers you, um, what can they expect to you if they come to you for a session, a healing session, say? And how would you sort of guide them through um, a session? If you want to just outline what your services are and what can be offered to somebody that comes to you.
thank you for asking that. This is a huge part of my work that I do. So, well, really, it's a lot of times I do the spiritual consultation because it's definitely an evaluation if somebody doesn't really know what they want or what they need. So I do have a diamond package that would offer a free consultation if someone is anticipating just wanting to extensively work with me. But if someone doesn't know, I offer the spiritual consultation, and in that time, I just get a feeling for who they are, a little bit about their spiritual awakening, what are their concerns for themselves, and um, as they start to unfold that, I psychically start to read them and their energy and where do I think they may have blockages and where is it most important to start and begin the journey and the work of coming to work with me? Typically, I would start with doing like a deep chakra clearing with somebody, I think, just to work on the base levels of the light body and get weight up out of the body, because that's one of the things that pulls people into their detriment is that they're just holding too much weight. So, just kind of to stabilize someone's field, it's about getting them lighter, cutting cords, releasing blockages. Um, and it's really about identification of what that weight is. I think we can't recognize the weight we carry.
Hmm.
So we recognize what is it and then work to shift that. Sometimes it's through alchemy, sometimes it's through restructuring their biofield. Sometimes things are misplaced. Sometimes we gotta move things around um and then open up those psychic channels through chakra aerobics and things like this, and bring in some fluidity, and then get their psychic fields open so that way they can um, feel how things should flow. I think a lot of times people are really blocked when they come to me, so just working with me helps to open
Hmm.
them, and then getting them open allows things to move. And um, from there, I like to work within the like sexual components of things because this really is kind of, I mean, your sacral chakra, your root chakra, your solar plexus, the lower chakras, that focus on that area is probably one of the most important things we do. That energy is so fundamental to the dynamics of relationships and communication and essentially the quality of life overall. So it's really fundamental to get to the root of the sexual war, or the sexual slavery, or the sexual misery in which you've encountered, and work to heal and cleanse those burdens from the soul and the spirit. And that I feel like is just focused around healing, absorbing, receiving, allowing yourself to receive healing. That can be difficult for a lot of people, especially if they've shut down and closed up and built a lot of walls around their heart, just coping, surviving, whatever it is. It's not anybody's fault that they need to heal or that they could accept healing or allow healing to happen. So it's just getting comfortable with being vulnerable with yourself and then being able to share that with a healer.
Hmm. I find there's a lot of fear, just taking that initial step forward, right? People even coming to me for that matter, it's like they have this sort of, I don't know, it seems like it's a programming in a way in society, right? To stay away from people like you and me, perhaps, right? It's like we need to step past that divide and welcome people into our energy and tell them that it's not so scary to be healed, right? And fear for one is such a debilitating energy, right? It's just And once
Yeah.
you overcome that, it's like you're opening yourself up to the universe, really, to your own power. And so why not have it healed by somebody like you, or me for that matter, who knows, like, how to open up energies and heal those
Yeah.
wounds, right?
Yeah.
So thank you for that. And
Well,
are you able
the
to?
work we're doing, I just want to say the work we're doing is it is the new earth medicine.
Yeah.
Like this is what will heal the collective. I mean, I've had from psychologists to doctors to like other sorts of medical practitioners, they'll come and work with me just so they can absorb this like style of healing because they want to start integrating it into like their practices. So I find that to be a profound shift that we're transforming I guess it'll be a component of transforming the medical um, tyranny.
Tyranny.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm totally on board with that. Yeah, it's gone too far off course, right? Yeah. And that again goes back to the feminine, the pure divine feminine, sacred healing energies, right? Going all the way into the past, right? So yeah,
Yeah.
it's so invigorating to know all of that. Thank you, Indy. This has been a totally enlightening conversation. Was there anything that you wanted to add to that, or anything I forgot to talk about?
It's been absolutely wonderful. I think we touched on so many different points and you did amazing. And just thank you for this conversation. That was really fun. And I recommend your services as well to anyone watching. I know you have some
Thank you.
amazing healing sessions that you have too. I'll have to come and work with you so I can get um, a firsthand experience. But I
Thank
trust
you.
that you are um,
I'm
very
like
good with what
I'm
you
like the
do.
entry level. You're like the advanced level.
I've just been doing this for so long, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, e- experience, right?
Well,
It
you have certainly opened up my throat chakra. I have to tell you that. Like January 1 on the dot, like my throat chakra just boom, it opened up. Because I think we've been talking, right? When I was taking your course, I was like so, and again, that fear energy sort of comes into play, right? I was so afraid of speaking in public, so afraid of coming in front of the camera. And now look at me, I'm like doing live shows left, right, and center. I'm like, oh my God, is this really happening?
yeah, you're amazing and you're a
And so
natural.
I have you to thank for that. No, it's been amazing. It's been truly amazing. But you are truly a healer, and that's really something that that we have to hold on to and truly appreciate.
Well, thank you so much for saying that. It's just about recognize. It's just pushing yourself past that first, like the fearful. Well, and I think with you, so much, I think you've done so much work on yourself. And so that speaks for itself and that shows, right? Like you've put in the work. So it's for you, it was just a matter of like, I'm just gonna now step off the ledge, right? Like your wings were already like this, and you were like when it came to publicly speaking. So I'm so proud of you. I just want
Oh,
you to
thank
know
you.
that.
Thank you.
And I'm happy you're by my side. Like when we're doing those lives, I mean, you're bringing it with the information and the intel, and I love it.
Oh, I love
I
it
love
too.
it.
Yeah. No, I'm
Yeah.
I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful for our combined journey together, and it's been so enlightening, and I'm so excited for what's to come, because a lot of the things that you are talking about, it so resonates with where I'm being nudged to go and the path that I'm being nudged to follow. In terms of, you talked about starting, excuse me, a mystery school, or well, for me, they're telling me that it's starting a mystery school, but I know that you've got something in that sort of area that's a vision for you too, right? To bring community together. So
Yes.
I have a feeling that we're going to be working together more often in the future. So, and I'm totally loving that. So,
Well, I
and I'm
can't
really
wait.
excited for it. Yeah. So thank you so much for being here, for spending this time with me on such an auspicious day. And I'd love to thank everybody that's listening. I really appreciate you being here and for supporting India and myself. like both of our channels, go and check out Indy's work, and yeah, just appreciate these beautiful energies that are coming your way. So thank you for tuning in. Namaste.
Namaste.